This is John Paul Rai. I'm coming to you from Tokyo, Japan, and this here is a site called Marilyn Manson Uncancelled, and they pitch in on the new documentary on HBO about Marilyn Manson, and Evan Rachel Wood made it. So I'm going to read some of this. It's a lot longer than I'm presenting here, but I want to get to some important points, and this will be linked down below. So let's take a look at what they got. It's titled Evan Rachel Wood's ridiculous documentary Phoenix Rising Part 1, Don't Fall, a detailed review and examination. And, this kind of thing, this documentary, is why I think she's making a lot of these accusations. This is kind of her career now. I mean, she's getting to be more known for this than anything else. So it's becoming her main thing, basically. Let's continue. I had the opportunity to view the premiere of Evan Rachel Wood's HBO documentary directed by Amy Berg titled Phoenix Rising Through the Don't Fall because Part 2 is not completed yet. Both will be available in March through HBO. Amy Berg introduced the documentary, and the noteworthy point she made was that Evan's moment is a moment of empowerment. This is very important to point out from the beginning. You cannot understand this topic unless you understand Evan Rachel Wood's primary motive in coming out against Marilyn Manson. At this point, we move into the summer of 2020, and Evan begins by saying to the camera, "I am here to talk today about Brian Warner, also known to the world as Marilyn Manson." And I think what the person meant by empowerment was not necessarily in a positive way, but maybe in a way that's not completely fair. And what I mean by that is making accusations and being empowered by them without actually having the evidence. That's what I get from it. The length of the relationship between Evan and Manson, as explained by Evan, is extremely problematic and contradicts all facts. She says that her relationship with Manson lasted 4.5 years, off and on, from mid-2006 to the beginning of 2011, when I escaped, she says. Thus, makes it sound like she was 18 when they got into a relationship, but I'm not exactly sure why she pushes her relationship into 2011, since it is demonstrably not true. I have previously gone into detail in other articles what the actual length of their relationship was, so right there, there's one pretty bad inaccuracy I think they should be getting right. Evan begins by showing herself in photos as an innocent young teenager, first showing herself with her first boyfriend, then showing herself with Jamie Bell when they first dated in 2005. And let me note, Jamie Bell is also not quite on board with her story either. I don't know details about how they got along, how they left it off, and that kind of thing. However, Bell is not exactly on the side of the Phoenix. With this, we come upon our first red flag. Evan is seen going through notebooks of journals, but then we see that all the journal entries are on a computer without dates. The paper entries in her handwriting look like they are on new paper, not paper from 2005 to 2007. Yeah, they just make it. It's a prop for the documentary. There might be in fine print somewhere, these are just images, these are just reenactments or something, maybe. But those should be there. If they're not there, then yeah, that's just a deception, basically. As one who writes and edits for a living, I must also say that the writing style from the few excerpts I was able to read is excellent for a teenage girl. Right, so they wrote it now to make it seem like all this stuff happened. When did it? I think some of it happened, but not necessarily in the way she's saying meant to be abusive. I want to state from this point before moving forward that Evan never describes her relationship with Manson in part 1 of this documentary beyond 2007. It's as if the rest of their relationship doesn't exist, and it is very odd. She never even mentions they were ever engaged to get married. These are convenient facts that she left out, though she may address them in part 2. Okay, fair enough. She might address them. However, they are left out of part 1. Evan talks about how she is afraid to come out and name Marilyn Manson as her abuser because of the various threats she received against her life and that of her family. A series of anonymous messages are flashed on the screen with death threats, none by Manson, but by Manson fans, though she does make one comment that Manson had once threatened her that he would F up her whole family, starting with the dad. Of course, No context is given to this comment nor any evidence of it. This is the main obstacle, she says, that was preventing her from coming out against Manson by name. Yeah, her story is he threatened her, he kept eagle eyes on her, this and that, and the whole question a lot of people are asking is, like, how is he moving through his career and keeping an eye on all these people at once and keeping up these threats? If he was, there should be quite a ton of help he had from a group of people, around the clock doing this kind of thing, because him doing it single-handedly doesn't seem incredibly likely. And here we see some of them. Anonymous fan, we know where you effing live, you'll never be safe. I guess those are from the documentary. I'm not exactly sure. I took it from the article. But if it says anonymous fan, that's not really proving any kind of point against Manson. He can't control his fans. It's distasteful. I don't condone, but you can't control your fans. And she shows this picture here, and she plays it up like she was so young and helpless, and she was pretty young compared to the other actresses and people accusing him. What Evan is teaching young women here is at the age of 18 or 19 or 20 or even 21, you are still a kid and should be treated like a kid. But when you read interviews of Evan from those ages, the last thing she wanted was to be treated like a kid. Quite the opposite. Other Manson accusers go so far as to say they were just a kid at the age of 26, Ashley Morgan Smithline, and another claims she had the same childlike naivety at 29, Esme Bianco from Game of Thrones. Now, 29 is not old, but it's the next phase. Once you're 29, you're getting towards the middle. A lot of people have kids at, 29. It's pretty common. 29 is not like a super young mom. It's pretty young. It's pretty young, absolutely. But if you get my drift, it just feels like quite, the next step in life. Definitely not a kid. Such beliefs and excuses deal a severe blow against a female's ability to make it on her own in the world if she so chooses, like Evan Rachel Wood chose at 19 when she decided to be with Manson. If a woman can choose to look back years later and blame others for her poor decisions because of the excuse that she was just a kid, then women will prevent themselves from being held accountable from any of their choices, and all blame will go on whoever they choose besides themselves. It's utterly inhumane. And yeah, that's a good point. So there you have it. Anyway, this article, like I said, is really long. I think it's like 6 or 7 pages or something like that. And again, it'll be linked below. Obviously, it's pretty one-sided. This is not a documentary about what's going on, the wide spectrum, the full picture. It's from Evan Rachel Wood's point of view. She totally directs it and makes everything sound exactly how she wants it. So it's not a very educational film. It's more looking like a smear. I'd have to see it to know. But from what I've heard from people who have seen it, it's incredibly one-sided. I don't think there's anything in it whatsoever about any kind of defense or contradiction she made or nothing. Just totally HBO says, yeah, go ahead, say exactly what you want. We'll see if they let Marilyn Manson make one with his side of the story. That would be kind of interesting and refreshing and give a little faith in society. But people usually don't want to hear both sides. They want to hear the victim side and the drama side, even with no actual real evidence. You guys, consider subscribing here if you're listening. I'm doing pop culture, Death vs. Heard, Manson, stuff like that. If you don't subscribe, I guess I'll be sad, but I'll get over it. See you next time.